jam in your universe.
Here are my thoughts on Billboard's top artists of the 2010s. Most of this list doesn't really surprise me. Lists like these always make everybody mad, but you do kind of have to take emotion out of it and look at things objectively. Drake and Taylor Swift made consistent hit records throughout the entirety of the decade, so them being at number 1 and number 2 does not surprise me at all. And Bruno Mars and Rihanna following closely behind them makes absolute sense to me, because both of them did very well throughout the entirety of the decade. Even though we are still waiting on R9, Adele makes sense, Justin Bieber makes sense, Katy Perry makes sense, Ed Sheeran makes sense. The only two that surprise me are Maroon 5 and Post Malone. Personally, I'm a little surprised it's not Lady Gaga, Nicki Minaj, and Beyonce, because all three of those ladies were massively successful throughout the decade as well. And as much as I love Ariana, she really didn't make a gigantic impact until the last half of that decade. No, I'm not negating her first 2 albums. But yeah, I probably would have changed Maroon 5 or Post Malone, but what are your thoughts?
Hey there, my name is Jonathan Miller, and some of you may know me as that guy who does the album deconstructions here on TikTok. If you have no idea who I am, just ignore that part then. Today is the 2nd anniversary of a special music project of mine called Utopia. It's this 4-song mini-album that combines a lot of my influences from the early 2000s and late 90s pop explosion, as well as some modern EDM and K-pop vibes. It also pays tribute to my Japanese family and the wonderful people that helped raise me growing up. Despite the title, the year this EP came out was probably one of the worst years of my life. I lived with my grandpa at the time, who passed away right after it came out. I was trying to balance grieving and taking care of my family with promotion and running my YouTube channel and vlogging the entire experience, and sadly, I lost a lot more lives that year than I care to admit. But I learned that Utopia isn't some physical space you run to, it's a state of mind. Music is my everything, and it quite literally saved me that year. Anyway, if you're into pop music and would like to give it a listen, I'd appreciate it. If not, that's cool too. My music isn't for everyone, and I get that. Anyway, thank you for watching, and happy anniversary, Utopia!
You know, my account has grown a lot since I started doing album deconstructions, so let's do a refresher. So this little breakdown right here is what I call the system of music marketing. And it's basically a way for artists to figure out their unique sound, who their music is kind of for, and who might be interested in it. And in order to figure those out, well, if you're the artist doing it, it takes a lot of research and a lot of getting it wrong. But mostly it has to do with your genres, your techniques, and your influences, and how all of those come together. So umbrella genre is going to be like the biggest genre of your music. These are the big terms that everybody knows, like country, R&B, pop, rock, etc. Subgenre is like the next closest big term that your music sounds like. So like Ariana Grande would be R&B pop. Niche and micro niche is where we get a little more specific. There are tons of micro genres of music, like 8-bit, chiptune, neo-soul, etc. And your niche is like that little twist that makes your music stand out. Sometimes that little twist is actually a technicality, so like female-fronted rap or female-fronted metal. And if you put all those keywords together, you'll have a unique way to describe your sound. How do singles get chosen? Well, this is going to vary artist to artist and genre to genre and even project to project, but here are some general guidelines. Nowadays, generally speaking, before an album is released, the first and second single are already planned. The third single and beyond, if there's going to be one from an album, is usually chosen after fan response. In pop music, singles are chosen based on a variety of factors. The most obvious factor is catchiness. How easily does that song get stuck in somebody's head? The second obvious reason would be marketability. Like Taylor Swift gets criticized all the time for her single choices, but actually from a business point, she's pretty smart. I mean, people criticized her and said she was playing the victim, so her first single was Look What You Made Me Do. I'm sorry, that was genius. Anyway, less obvious factors include the runtime of a song. The average pop song right now is only 3 minutes long, so how fast does it get stuck in somebody's head? Another factor is, how does this represent the artist? Are they doing a new genre? Is it a style change? What is it? What season or time of year is it when it's being released? What is the overall mood of the market it's being released to? And a lot more. What concerts have I been to? Well, I'm just gonna preface this by saying I grew up near Portland, Oregon, and not everybody used to tour there. So my concert list is pretty small, but rest assured when this panorama is over, I'm going to see everybody. Anyway, here you go. My very first concert was actually the American Idol's tour in 2008 with David Cook and David Archuleta. Sad story, my dog had actually died that morning and we thought about not going. But I'm glad we did because it was a great mood lifter. I saw Katy Perry during her One of the Boys tour, and this is way before Teenage Dream, but honestly, it was so much fun. I'll never forget when she was playing her guitar during Thinking of You, and then she took it off and gave it to an audience member. I still think that was a cool thing. Then I saw the Glee concert tour, This Is Miss Amber Riley, and honestly, it was just fantastic. Everyone had white Born This Way t-shirts, and honestly, it was just amazing. I saw JoJo the opening night of her Mad Love tour. I did a whole review of it on YouTube, and she actually shared it on all of her social media ones. I've also seen TVXQ. Honestly, no shade, best concert ever.
I want to know what is one lyric from a song that is so brilliant you can't possibly imagine how the songwriter came up with it.
Literally the entirety of Begin Again by Taylor Swift. It is a song that is literally so simple and not as wordy as other Taylor Swift songs, and yet you can picture every single detail, even the stuff that's not said. This song has so deeply resonated with me since I first heard it, both personally and as a songwriter. As somebody who can get a little wordy in their music as well, like Taylor Swift is one of my inspirations, but this song is like the perfect example of how you don't need a lot of details in your songwriting. Sometimes a simple moment requires simple words. Your listeners will fill in the rest of the story as they listen to it and adapt it to their own lives. Obviously, this is a song about something Taylor went through, but let me tell you, when I tell you it resonates with my soul. I mean, damn girl, next time you want to just read me, at me next time. What does it mean to own your own record label? When an artist owns their own record label, basically what that means is that the artist is in total control over how their music business runs. Like, I'll use myself as an example. I own my own business. It's not 100% a record label, but it basically functions like one. And just like most artists who own their own record label, I'm the only artist signed to it. But I don't have a publicist. I don't have a manager. I don't have a record exec to go to because I am the record exec. Basically, nobody gets to tell me how I get to release music. When you own your own record label, you choose your music distributor. You choose what kind of music you're releasing, how you go about promoting it. You retain total ownership over everything. But because it's a business, you're also in charge of setting things up like taxes, budgeting, and spreadsheets to make sure that you break even. At least, because obviously the ideal would be to stay in the green. You also have to form your own network. How are you getting your songs placed in like TV and film? You have to keep track of all of your revenue streams, bills to pay. But in exchange, you own everything and total creative freedom. 11 years ago today, my third studio album, This Summer Air, was released. If I'm being honest, I still get really shy talking about my music, especially my cringy early stuff. Watching Taylor Swift go through her Fearless album again kind of inspired me to not run away from it so much, and I know a lot of artists follow me, so I wanted to share some things that I've learned. I write all of my own music. I've never released a song that I did not write or co-write. I self-produce. I don't play an instrument. I don't have a publicist. I don't have a manager. I don't have a team. And you know what else I didn't have when I made this specific album? The knowledge that I do now. When this album came out, I was on the verge of escaping a very abusive relationship. Fitting, because the first song on the album is called Escape. I always tell people I write through my subconscious, and that's just one reason why. But you're not gonna know everything. There's a misconception in this industry that you have to get everything perfectly as soon as you start. No, you don't, because you can't. Your music journey is about figuring out who you are and how you see the world as you experience it. It took me 10 years after this album to get an audience. So on the days where you wonder if it'll ever pay off, keep going. How are alternative, pop, country, rock, and even R&B all related? Even though by today's standards, these genres are very distinct, they actually all stem from one another, which is why nowadays all of these genres cross over with each other all the time. 60 seconds is nowhere near long enough to explain this, but here's a brief rundown. Country music, as it's known today, actually stems from folk music in the southern United States. Rhythm and blues, or R&B as it's more commonly known now, was created by Black people in the South. Rock music is actually an evolution of both country and R&B music, except its primary instrument is the electric guitar, a natural evolution from the acoustic guitar-driven country. Pop music, even though it sounds very different now, actually stems from rock music. Ever heard of a little band called The Beatles? Yeah, at one point, they were pop music. The only difference is that pop music sounded a lot closer to rock music than it does now. And alternative music stems from rock music. That really gave a voice to more independent acts. Long story short, thank you, Black people. Hey there, some of you have asked how I produce music. I have this keyboard thing, but I don't play an instrument. So I use Logic Pro to actually draw in all of my notes. I usually start with something simple and then add on to it. My songs can start with any instrument, but after I've got something basic, I find another random instrument to create a big chord. Then I add in my kick drums and my claps. I make dance music, so gotta have a good beat. My bass lines are pretty simple, but when the track's done, I add vocals.
I'm not afraid of my heart.
Then I go in and add some background vocals. This particular song doesn't have a ton of background vocals, but usually I have a lot. Then when that's all set to go, I add in some ad-libs. It adds some nice auditory interest and dynamics. Then put it together and get this.
I'm not afraid of my heart. And I was rolling.
Let's talk about Hot Pink by Doja Cat. Because using our system of music marketing, we can figure out how this album breaks down. And this is actually a really great example of how genres, influences, and technique all come together to form the system of music marketing. And let me show you how. So her umbrella genre is gonna be R&B. Even though there are quite a few influences on this album, overall it's structured and formatted very R&B. Her subgenre is gonna be hip-hop. Almost every song is over a hip-hop beat. Now this is where it gets kinda interesting. Her niche is gonna be female-fronted rap. Yes, that is absolutely a thing. Yes, it is worth highlighting. That doesn't mean that male-fronted rap is the default. It's just a label that highlights the artist and their subject matter. Her micro niche is gonna be bubblegum pop. And the reason it's her micro niche is because the way in which she uses bubblegum pop vocals, melodies, and sounds actually serves to highlight her total artistic versatility by making her music more accessible to the pop world and the rap world. Like and follow for more.
What's a song lyric that drives you crazy because they should have used a different word?
Okay, I know my Taylor Swift hype week is over, but this has bugged me for years. Yes, that specific controversial line in this song. Some people thought it was homophobic. Some people thought she was just trying to make her ex undateable. I don't care what your reason is. I hate what she changed it to because it destroys the function of the lyric. The whole point of that section is, fine, you called me something, I'm gonna call you something. Oh, by the way, while I'm up in your face, blah, 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 blah. Instead, she changed it to, you won't mind if I say, by the way, I hate, like it destroys the whole thing. And in the mid-2000s country radio, the word gay was gonna get censored either way. So why didn't she just sub it out for the word insane and level the playing field? For example, go and tell your friends that I'm obsessive and crazy. That's fine, I'll tell mine you're insane. By the way, I hate that stupid old pickup truck you never let me drive. You're a redneck heartbreak who's really bad at lying. See? Have you ever listened to a song when you were a kid and then listened to it again when you were older and realized, wow, that was about something completely different? That is a primary function of bubblegum pop music. True bubblegum pop music thrives on double entendres, and the name bubblegum actually comes from the 60s and 70s when preteens and teenagers would listen to catchy music while chewing bubblegum. True bubblegum pop music is a song that you can hear and instantly fall in love with, but maybe don't really think about until you really look at the lyrics and start thinking about it. While double entendres for bubblegum pop music can be suggestive, they can also be satirical by taking phrases that are commonly used against a certain group of people and putting them in there in a flirty kind of way to highlight that those certain phrases shouldn't be used against them. Here are some examples for you, and in the captions, I'll highlight some of those double entendres. I think people get confused about me. I've actually said this in a lot of videos of mine. I'm not anti-record label. I mean, who wouldn't want a lump sum of money to create an album? I would. But I believe in the power of education. There's a lot of shady stuff in the music industry, and a lot of things that get hidden in record contracts nobody really knows, such as not owning your master recordings, understanding that you have to pay all of that back before you ever start making money, being unable to release music how and when you want to. If you can find a great lawyer who can help you negotiate those things before you sign your record contract, then go for it. That's a great thing. The reason I make music-related videos is because I've seen one too many people sign their life away, and then what should have been a great career for them is completely destroyed. Getting a record deal is a huge accomplishment. Those artists have deals that work well for them. I'm not gonna knock them for it. Anyway, I just thought I would clear that up in case it wasn't clear from my numerous other videos. Absolutely, let's talk about Dove Cameron. I really like Dove. Her voice is instantly recognizable. I think she's still experimenting with what she wants her sound to be. There's no shame in that. I think if she came out with the right song that was really catchy and showed off her voice, there is no reason she wouldn't absolutely crush this industry. Tips for producing music. Music production takes a lot of ear training. I mean, you are literally constantly analyzing sounds. And production styles change depending on what genre you're making. But one thing I've learned is you have to take ear breaks. Even if you're on a roll making that next hit record, you have to walk away from it every once in a while so that your ear can catch minor details. Like, do you have too much reverb on a vocal line and it's clogging up your mix? Which, by the way, at least in pop music, take off some of that reverb and add in a little more echo and you'll get the same effect. And your mix won't sound as muddy. Another thing that's important to remember for music production is basically to know the rules well enough to know when to break them. Always have reference tracks for your song, basically the song or two that inspired your song. really listen to them with critical ears. In pop music, every measure something new is happening. Even if it's a very tiny thing like adding a snare or a cymbal, or the start of a build-up into your next section, really listen to your reference tracks so you can mix it up. Selena Gomez, I love her. The hate she gets is so stupid. I think she faces a lot of tired critique that is so unoriginal at this point. Like, it bothers me when people are like, I'm sorry, she can't sing. Like, you're not sorry. You want to say something over and over again until she hears you so that maybe she'll quit music and you feel better about yourself for killing someone's dream. I never really understood that with people, because people only bring up that style of singing when they can use it to tear someone down. If everyone truly thought in 2021 that in order to be successful in the music industry, you have to have an Ariana Grande or Mariah Carey style voice, then why are you not attacking Billie Eilish? Why are you not attacking Taylor Swift anymore? Why are you not attacking Doja Cat, Lil Nas X, or anyone who has a smaller voice? You know, in 2021, we could always just stop the cycle and not always bring people down. I don't know, just a thought. Wow, okay, let's try Willow. I was the water when your ship rolled in that night. Rough on the surface, but you cut through like a knife. And if it was an open shut case, I never would have known from the look on your face. Lost in your current like a priceless wine. The more that you say, the less I know. Wherever you stray, I'll follow. I'm begging for you to take my hand, wreck my plans, that's my man. You know that my train could take you home. Anywhere else is hollow. I'm begging for you to take my hands, wreck my plans, that's my man. Life was a willow and it bent right to your wind. But I come back stronger than a 90s trend. Alright, welcome back to another video that has nothing to do with music. In case you don't follow me on Instagram, I got my second dose of the Pfizer vaccine on Tuesday, and let me tell you, it knocked me on my ass. However, I'm immunocompromised, I'm celiac, so I knew it was a possibility that it could throw me for a loop, and loop it did throw me. But I do want to say that side effects are normal. They don't mean that the vaccine is not working. It means that your body is learning how to fight and becoming stronger. So even though I had a fever like I have never felt before, I do not regret getting the vaccine, and you should go get it too if you haven't already. It keeps not only you safe, but everyone around you safe. With the first dose, all I had was really just a sore arm. The second dose, I'll be honest, I had fever, chills, sweating, weakness, muscle soreness. My joints and my eyes were sore too. But 24 hours later, I am doing much better. But anyway, just go get the vaccine and remember to take the day off.
Boys and girls and girls. Tell us what inspired the song.
I have to say something about that video because that comment section made me realize how reductive people can be. First of all, it makes me really sad that Taylor's team would not allow her to get even remotely political at this time. The Taylor that we know today would obviously say that that line is her support for the LGBTQ community. That video and that comment section is a prime example of why I hate when people try to call out a celebrity for not speaking up on a certain issue. And that's honestly because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Also in 2014, Taylor was still transitioning out of country music, which used to be notoriously not allowed to be political in any way. It's so easy and reductive to be like, why didn't she just say that? Because even some of the biggest names in music still have people to answer to. Speaking from personal experience, until you've been in a negative power dynamic, you really don't have a right to say anything. Critique is fine. Lack of empathy is not. Looks like the Grammys decided to drop a bombshell today. The not-so-secret committee is made up of record execs and experts who have the final say as to who gets nominated in the big 4 categories are getting eliminated. That was not on my 2021 bingo card, but I am here for it. This means that from now on, the nominees in those categories are strictly being chosen by the General Academy voters. Which, by the way, 90% of the voter base is going through a requalification process by the end of this year. Another big change is that the eligibility time frame has been expanded by 1 month. So for the 2022 Grammy Awards, which will take place January 31st, 2022, is now from September 1st, 2020 to September 30th, 2021 this year. But that's not it. Both of these new categories accurately represent the changing landscape in the music industry, which you guys know I am all for the globalization and inclusion in music. Overall, I am very happy to see these changes. I did not expect them. Like and follow and let me know your thoughts. Okay, my thoughts on Billie Eilish. I'm gonna be honest with you. Originally, I didn't like her, but I really do like her now, so stick with me, I'll explain. Honestly, she kind of bodied everything I didn't like. Everything that I'd heard from her was dark and depressive and moody, and I hate spiders. And Bad Guy's outro from the rest of the song sounds so differently, so it drove me insane. She's also 11 years younger than me and started to gain popularity in my mid-20s, which was not a good time for me. I really needed happy music, and I just couldn't understand why she was getting so popular, until I saw her perform on SNL. I watched her performance and I remember thinking, holy cow, what have I been missing? It was also then that I realized I was projecting my own self-hatred, depression, and anxiety onto her, which isn't fair. So then I watched some interviews with her and realized how good of a person she is, and I thought, I was completely wrong. You don't have to like every song and artist. Everyone's music taste is different. But an open mind is also good to have. And I'm very excited to hear Happier Than Ever. Okay, I saw somebody ask me for my thoughts on Nicki Minaj, but I could not find the comment anywhere, so I hope you see this. I really like Nicki. I think sometimes she gets a little misunderstood. As we all know, controversy can kind of gloss over some of the good that people do. And let's be real, Nicki Minaj does not take any BS. But she's actually had a really big impact on the music industry. Like, she's actually one of the reasons streaming now counts toward the Billboard charts. She was a huge advocate for that when streaming started to really take off. Not just for the rap community and the hip-hop community, but for music as a whole. And her really sticking up for that helped modernize the entire charting system. I mean, she was one of the first female rappers to include super bubblegum pop hooks that she sang by herself. It wasn't a feature thing, she did it all. Do I listen to her every single day? No, but if a Nicki song comes on, I'm probably not gonna hit skip. She's also a really big education advocate and has offered to pay off student loans for her fans. That's cool. How much money does Spotify pay in royalties? Streaming is kind of weird in the eyes of music law because it actually generates two types of royalties. One called mechanical royalties, which are picked up by your music distributor and then paid to you. And the other is your publishing royalties, which get collected by your performance rights organization. So if you're an artist like me who writes their own music, you need both of those things in order to collect all of your paycheck. But how much do they actually pay? Well, in case you live under a rock, streaming doesn't pay very much. Well, as of 2019, the rate per stream that Spotify pays out is 0.00437 cents. Yes, way less than a penny. However, that itself is really complicated because it can fluctuate all the time, as well as what country do your listeners live in? Do they have a premium or free account? It changes depending on their overall subscription revenue, blah, 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 blah. How many streams does it take to earn $1? Well, on average, it's gonna take you about 250 streams to get $1. If you want $1,000, you're gonna need about 250,000 streams. What do record sales mean? I have to admit that when I first read your question, it made me laugh just a little bit. And I don't know how old you are, but I also understand that the music industry has changed quite a bit. So rather than try to embarrass you or anything, it's pretty simple. Record sales just means the sales of music. So when your favorite artist releases an album and you buy that, that's a record sale. A record sale is also when you buy a song on iTunes. Even an individual song can be called a record because it's technically a recorded version of a song. Now, it used to be that record sales dominated the total revenue of the music industry. But in 2019, that was finally surpassed by streaming. I know it seems like it's always been around, but historically, streaming is a brand new thing, which is why the music industry and music law as a whole is a little slow at trying to catch up. You might have also heard the term traditional sales or pure sales, and that means record sales excluding streaming. Streaming has a complicated formula to make up album sales.
Have you noticed that pop music is getting sadder and darker?
Okay, I just wanted to piggyback off of what Merritt is saying, which, by the way, her video is worded perfectly. Make sure you watch it. Because I don't think people realize just how much pop music represents the overall mood of the general population. I've talked about this numerous times in my videos before, but she's 100% right. The world is much more polarized now, and that's why pop music was super fun in the early 2010s, but then by the end of the decade, it was super dark and depressing, because the world was super dark and depressing. What I find interesting as a pop music artist myself is that now as the world moves toward a post-pandemic world, whatever the hell that's gonna look like, pop music is starting to take a turn up towards happy. I think it's still trying to figure out exactly what that sounds like, but I think with the early 2000s Y2K trend starting to make a comeback, I think pop music is about to be really fun again. Because after the numerous events of 2020, we need it to. How do artists make money from streaming? Well, as we all know, streaming does not pay very much. Well, depending on who wrote the song, who owns the song, who's listening to it, where they're listening to it, and a whole bunch of other complications, that breakdown's gonna get a lot smaller. Also, record labels get a cut too. Everybody's gotta make money, it's a fact of the business. Now, what's interesting about streaming is that it actually pays out a few different types of royalties. So long story short, the best way to get paid out from streaming is to write your own music. Now, not everyone's a songwriter, and that's okay, there's no shame in that. In fact, it used to be much more common to not write your own music. But times, they are a-changin'. So I would encourage you to try to write your own music so you can get paid more. Oh, by the way, not to crash your dreams or anything, but we're still talking less than a penny per stream. So yeah, if you wrote a song with 4 other people, you gotta split that less than a penny with all of them. Wait, that sounds like a ripoff. Yeah, it is. That's why new laws are being worked on to try and change that. But if you're an artist like me, who writes your own stuff and doesn't have to pay a bunch of people, you get to keep all those less than a pennies. Shakira, I love her. How can anyone not love Shakira? She speaks like 5 languages. She's sold over 140 million albums worldwide. She donated $40 million to help Peru and Nicaragua. After a hurricane and earthquake in 2007, we stan and appreciate Shakira. Okay, here are my thoughts on Chloe and Halle. First of all, I think they're really talented, and I honestly think that even though Ungodly Hour did really well, as it should have, I still feel like from the general population that they're not getting the credit that I think they deserve, especially for being so heavily involved in their own production and writing. They're super hands-on with their music, which makes me really happy because they haven't lost that authenticity from when they started out as what now would be considered bedroom producing. As a bedroom producer myself, they get bonus points for that. But their music is just really good. I love that they're taking some innovations on 90s R&B and really taking a lot of what was special about that music and updating it. What's really nice about them is I've always gotten the feeling that they could do their own solo work and then come back together and make another hit record together. Kind of like how Destiny's Child was able to split up and do their solo work and then come back as a group. I feel like both of them would be successful either way. But yeah, they're super talented and I could see them doing really well as time goes on for sure. Okay, I actually really like Sophia Carson. I loved her in Descendants. I think she's made a lot of good solo music, but I have one problem with her, and it's not really with her. I hate that she is co-signed to Hollywood Records because that means a lot of her potential is wasted. I've already done a video on why I hate Hollywood Records, but this really isn't her fault. But Hollywood Records is notoriously bad at promoting their artists. And yeah, she may get a few features here and there, or some TV appearances like American Idol recently, which by the way, I think she did awesome at. But being signed to that Disney label is going to severely limit her chance of getting into the mainstream public eye. Like, I have a little bit of hope because Republic Records is partially in on the deal. But like, I really love her new song Fool's Gold with Tiesto. But like, other than her social media, where is the promo for it? That's really not her fault. That's her record label's fault. And believe me, I understand how the music industry works. So while Sophia is a really talented girl who I think could do amazing things, I feel like she's just not gonna get to do it because of her stupid record label.
I am a machine, not a robot, not a robot.